Lights, camera, and action.
Hello, John.
Okay. Hello, Howard.
I'm here in Japan, and you must be sitting in.
New Zealand.
Yay. And we're here
Yeah.
to talk about the featured boat of the week on the Traditional Small Boat Facebook page. It's what a great invitation.
Yeah, wonderful. It's and how amazing to be able to be involved from this distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, John, I know we have a short video to make, so why don't you open up with, we do know that the Scamp is fairly well established around the world, and it's one of your signature boats. I've even heard you state it's your best design, arguable by some, but I kind of think it's a great design. Maybe you could go into some of the quick specifics about what makes it such a good sailing boat.
Okay. Now, it's the fourth one in a series of designs that I've created to explore that particular bottom shape and type. So there's quite a lot of experience that's gone into it. And it's a lot of the experience has come up with stuff that's not that obvious, such as the very wide bottom. Normally a boat with a wide bottom like that, at that length, is going to be slow. There's no way around it. But the experience that's gone into it means that a Scamp, for example, makes very little wake. You'll notice that most short fat boats make a huge wake, and that's all lost energy, and the Scamp doesn't do that. To quote Phil Bolger, it leaves a wake like new mown grass. It's just smooth. It doesn't push the water very far because it's running the water underneath, guided by the twin skegs and the shape of the bow, which is another reason for that pram bow that very few people get. They see the pram bow and they think, oh yeah, high volume front, and it stops at nosediving in a really bad tailwind and a seaway, but it has a lot to do with the way the water flows through underneath rather than around it. So we've got a boat with a wide bottom, high stability, a big powerful rig on it, it's got ballast in it, it's got a big comfortable cockpit, and it's got some really nice shelter. Now, if you're going sailing with kids, you need some shelter because small people lose heat very quickly. And if you can put them up in the cuddy when it's blowing and there's a bit of spray around, they'll be a lot happier. So there's a whole lot of little features all gone into that boat, which may not be quite so obvious,
Well, John, yeah, if I may interject something that I think is really important, I want to go back to the hull shape. As you very well know, when I was planning a trip to Greenland, I was working on a boat design with an Italian naval architect, and boom, out came the Scamp design at 10 feet 10 inches. And when it was stretched, I ended up, konnichiwa. We have a visitor. So I ended up electing to purchase kit number 2 and number 3 sight unseen because I knew that the boat would do what I wanted it to do. And so when I switched to sailing down the Strait of Magellan into the Southern Ocean, that very bow shape, that short stem, and the rocker forward and the fullness allowed me to believe that the boat in a heavy tailwind with big waves would not purl or begin to root in one direction or the other when the hull heeled over and became asymmetrical. I thought it was brilliant. And I don't mind the pram bow, the way that it works, the way that it looks, because the function is there.
Yeah, well, the two most popular boat designs in the whole world and the whole history of the world are the Mirror Dinghy and the Optimist, and they both have pram bows.
Yep, absolutely.
So we're joining a good club here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cockpit is amazing. Pete, that's one of the things that many people make sight of when they see the boat is, that's got the cockpit of a 27 footer or a 25 footer. It's, as you mentioned, it's very livable for 2, 3, even 4 people. And that cuddy cabin is really essential. You'd be surprised, or sailors would be surprised on a cold day when you're sailing along, you're warm behind that cuddy cabin. It just cuts the wind beautifully. And it's a great place to store day sailing items.
Yeah, and cook and make your coffee.
Yep.
All that.
Absolutely. And on the boat that I built Scamp number two, I actually put a drop down door, a cloth door, and my cuddy cabin was inflatable. I would inflate it with the air rollers. I would also use a multi-purpose for bringing the boat up onto the hard out of the water. And that kept the boat from any chance of turtling in a capsize situation. So it's really, really clever.
Yeah, and the other point about that cuddy cabin is the forward half of it is an airtight locker. So there's a lot of high up buoyancy in there. One of the things, if you get a dinghy inverted and it rocks a little bit, it burps a lot of the air out from the inverted hull, makes it really, really hard to roll back again because it's sucked down. Whereas the cuddy cabin on the Scamp, with the high shear at both ends, floats the gunnel in the middle clear of the water so you can start the roll.
Well, you know,
Makes it
John, that's a really, really important point. I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, you and I have talked frequently, and many people do realize that we occasionally see capsize tests that are videotaped, but it's almost always in flat water. And that burp effect of riding a boat and air escapes, water pours in. Well, one of the few modifications made to the Scamp, there have been a few along the way from its evolutionary, lead up to today, are filling in those two bulkheads as an option. We call it bulkhead 4. But when the boat is on its side, even without those, it floats high. And that cuddy cabin and that dry, airtight space forward does exactly what you say it does. It keeps the boat from burping air out and filling up further. You can flip it up. There's a Scamp capsize video on YouTube that I think more than 100,000 views have taken a look at that now. That early on, that was the prototype. That was the third time it had ever been sailed, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, talking about the first time it had been sailed, I was told that the two guys who took it out brought it back in again with big smiles on and said, it sails like a freight train full of witches.
Yeah, that's true. And the second, the second sail was on December 27th. That was me. I took it out into Killisett Harbor, and it blew up that night. I had a poly tarp and a little string to tie it on, and a friend of mine made breakfast for me that I had stowed below, and at about 2 in the morning, it blew up really hard. It blew some 30 knots plus snow. I was warm down below, and in the morning, it was calm again. I spent the morning making coffee, and then the film crew came out, and I sailed back in, very cold water and very high winds, and freight train full of witches is just about right.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm very proud of, the combination of shelter and livability and performance.
John, the boat has been, it's interesting. I've been a lifelong sailor like you, and I love a good, beautiful hull shape and a pointed bow and, overhangs at the transom and all that stuff. And a few of my friends, former racing friends and others have said, what are you doing with that thing? And I'm like, well, you don't know. When I put them in the boat, they know, they get it. Yep. It's way faster than you can imagine. It feels like a bigger boat. It's very stable. When you step on a Scamp off the dock, and as opposed to other dinghies in its size, it goes just like this. Where you step on a dinghy on the dock and you've got to go for the middle because it's like this. It's a wonderful, wonderful, buoyant design. And wonderful enough that, I've lost track. I think we're on Scamp Camp Group Build number 9. Number 10 is coming up in 2024. And it's something that you and I are going to do together in North America. And we're going to piggyback it with
Scallywag.
Yep.
There's a question here from Ben. Would the Scamp design scale up 2 or 3 feet to give a version with sleeping potential under the cuddy?
Ta-da!
And answer that I wrote down was, I
went
Scallywag plans. 15'6" long, 2 inside berths, self-draining cockpit. Your rig will be out in December, so watch this space. And we're looking to include that in the next Scamp Camp.
Correct.
So we will have space for 3, maybe 4. We will have templated cut bulkheads and major components. We would anticipate the boat being trailerable at the end of 10 days. So you'd have a hull with the main cabin components in place. Seat tops, maybe not, but they're easy. But the cockpit would be there. Seat fronts, all that.
John, it's really important that folks understand the nature of Scamp Camp that we've done a number of times together. We instructed at the first one, and I've instructed at all of them since, and you've been at a number of them. Is that even a beginner with no building skills can come to Scamp Camp, and what they end up with is a highly accurate hull, all of the skills that they need to finish their boat, and all the parts. So we're going to double up Scamp Camp with a short break, and then Scallywag Camp. All the parts for the Scallywag to the Scamp Camp finish level, which is the bulkheading, the bottom, the planking, and the templates for the rest of the parts will be incorporated into that 10-day build. So those 4 builders can sign up, come in. John and I will instruct the class after we've done Scamp Camp, and you drive away just like a Scamp Camp builder with a highly accurate hull, the templates to make the rest of your boat, and off you go. And this is going to be the way we're going to prototype and refine and learn from these first builds.
Yeah. So I'll be really, really pleased. I'm going to be there. It'll be really cool. Scamp Camp and the projected Scallywag Camp are a lot more than just assembling a kit set. They're the building of a community. And Scampers are an amazing community. And the Scamp Campers keep together. They all keep in touch.
Yeah, that's that's kind of why I've continued to do it. I built my boat, but I've been so enthralled with the friendships that you and I have made with all the other builders. I've had a hand now in close to 100 Scamps, either advising or building or custom building. So it looks like we're going to run out of Zoom time here soon.
We've got 10 minutes left to go.
Yeah. So let me make sure that people don't have to see that sign. Let's see. Whoop. Hold on here. Bear with me. There we go. And so we will publish shortly information on Scamp Camp and Scallywag Camp 2024. They're planned for the Great Lakes. We have a beautiful boat shop there on an 80-acre private estate with a home. Everybody stays together. We cook together. It's a wonderful thing, and after the camp, we're available. I constantly am doing email and Zoom calls with builders. I'm currently working with builders in Europe. There's also a Scamp Camp effort underway for one of the members of this site, the traditional small craft site, for the United Kingdom. I've been in conversation with him by phone. John and I are also working with the Small Boat Guild in Tasmania for a build in 2025. So it's full guns.
Yep. So just to run through, while we've still got a bit of time left, there's some of the questions that Ben had asked here will be pertinent. So the level of skills required for a scratch build on a Scamp are not really high. One of my favourite sayings is, by the time you've finished your boat, you'll have all the skills you wished you had when you began. So if you can use basic hand tools and you can measure and cut accurately, you can build your boat. Right?
And you know what? And John and I are there to help you along the way with all of this.
Yeah. And whether it's a scratch build outside the camp or at a Scamp Camp, that's what you need to start with, is if you can measure accurately and you're prepared to learn how to use your hand tools. Nothing really fancy, maybe a power jigsaw and a power sander and a power drill. That's it. Right?
And the same will be true of the Scallywag.
Yeah, same, exactly the same build skills required. So there's that, and there's how many hours? Well, there's an awful lot of dependers in there, but what I'll say to cut it really short is I built one from scratch with a kit in 185 hours, included painting and fitting. Right? Now, I'm not a professional boat builder. I'm a skilled amateur, and of course I knew what the designer was on about. Yeah. So I was a bit quicker than some. If you think you can build half as quickly as me, it'll take you twice as long. If you were building from scratch without the kit, you'd be in for about 245 if I was building, because I built one from scratch here in New Zealand, one from a kit. So I know roughly what it took me, because I was charging the time out, so I know very accurately what it took me. So, yeah, and how you put that time in makes a big difference. If you're putting it in half-hour blocks, it's going to take you forever because it takes you a little while to get started and a little while to tidy up. If you're putting in half days or full days, you'll go a lot faster.
Yeah, I'd like to interject, John. You're saying that this is the perfect information. What I suggest to builders is that they have multiple things going at once. Have your rudder going, have the centerboard going, have the boat going. So as things are drying, and John's point about that 30 minutes is kind of inefficient, but if you can kind of get that flow going, I just finished 2 boats from plans or scratch build, as John put it, in less than 10 months. And I was doing many other things here at the boat shop in Japan in the interim, and that was no rush. That was actually relatively easy to do. It'll, of course, take folks a little longer, but we're available. And I love receiving emails and phone calls from folks, and I helped build a boat from scratch with a shop teacher in Canada. I'm still working with him. We do it by cell phone. You can actually stand by your boat with your cell phone and say, what's wrong with this spot? And we can give you an answer. We're happy to do that.
Happy to do it.
So stand by for news. We'll be announcing it on this site and other sites, including John's, and on my own page regarding the dates and details of the 2024 Scamp Camp group build and the 2024 Scallywag group build. We're going to piggyback them together, and lucky you, maybe not lucky you get John and me.
Yeah, well, you need to worry about that other guy telling bad jokes all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Which guy would that be? Senior punster. Well, John,
Yeah.
I think we've probably taken this one right to the line. This is Scamp Month, evidently, on the Traditional Small Boat Facebook page. And I think that's great. I think the boat deserves that kind of recognition. And humbly, I can say that I think it's destined to become a classic of a small boat. It already is.
It's something of a cult already. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You could be the cult leader.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. Well, it's been wonderful. John, always good to see you.
Hey, people, thank you very much for your attention. Howard, it's always good to see you, and I wish I was in that shop there with you like I was a couple of months ago. But yeah. Another place, another time, another Scamp Camp. Hey, and we'll see you all later.
Good.
Bye.
See you all at Scamp Camp in 2024. Thank you, and take care. Bye-bye.